If you've tried to cut to 15% body fat, but you've either rebounded or got stuck around 20%, and dieting has always felt hard to stick to, then it's probably not a discipline problem. This is the exact phase that I coach business owners and professionals through. So in this video, I'm going to show you the correct way to cut down to 15% and what needs to change without sacrificing your whole schedule or starving yourself to get there. So the first diet I ever did properly actually worked. And it was just the same list of ingredients, more or less the same meals like tuna, salad, rice cakes, avocado, beans, some chicken breast, and maybe some rice. I wasn't weighing anything or tracking proper portions or macros. I just repeated the same foods and assumed that that would be enough to get me lean. Every now and then I would start to feel the cravings kick in, and then I would convince myself that I have earned a little bit of dessert or some kind of snack. And that really slowed things down more than I realized at the time of doing it, even though I was as committed as I'd ever been and thought I was taking it seriously. It worked to a point, but eventually I got stuck. However, the next diet I did, I gave the same level of commitment, and that one got me all the way to 15% and then to 10% and then all the way down to 6%. So the plan was the variable here. Even on the first diet, I thought I was being as disciplined as ever and doing everything right. I remember seeing faint outlines around my abs and still feeling like I had such a long way to go and starting to doubt whether I'd actually, right, the results between these two diets were drastically different. And for me, that was a big realization because it's easier to think that you just need to try harder than to realize the plan you're following is never going to get you to 15% or less than that. And I see this frequently with men who are working 40 to 50 hours a week with deadlines and client meetings, events, family commitments, and all that stacked on top of everything else. Guys who can't make training and nutrition the number one priority because life just won't allow it. They get a plan that, gets them maybe a quarter or halfway to the goal, but then it stalls out. But life just blows up before the plan ever gets a chance to work. Or they jump to extremes like keto, paleo, carnivore, or whatever works only when 17 different things in their life all line up perfectly all at once. Like no trips, no overtime, no new projects, no baby on the way, nobody's sick, there's no injuries, there's no family emergencies. Because the second one of those things shows up, then the whole thing crumbles like a half-baked apple pie. So if you've already been disciplined in other areas of your life and you're still not getting the results you want to see in the mirror, then for you, the correct way to cut to 15% when dieting feels genuinely hard depends on a few specific things around your life. And I'm going to cover all that in a sec. But first, I just want to admit that I've worked with hundreds of men in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and even 70s, and none of them are on the same diet or the same training plan. But almost every one of them has struggled with dieting at some point before finding what actually works for them. Because it doesn't matter how good a plan looks on paper. Anyone can write that. AI can spit you out 1,000 in about 5 seconds. If it rejects your life, it's not going to work. So it's like handing someone a book written in Chinese, but they can't read Chinese. So nothing in that book, as good as it is going to be helpful, right? And that is the shift that I had to make from, hunting for this one magical diet to rule them all that's somewhere out there, to just figuring out what is the best diet that actually works this week and next week and on and on. And the reason most diets stop working comes down to one specific milestone that I'm going to talk about. And if you don't see this coming, it's going to crush your momentum right when you've finally got some going. But if you can anticipate it, you'll know exactly what to do when it hits. From 30% or thereabouts down to about 20%, almost any diet's going to work. Potato diet, the cookie diet, the banana diet, the whatever the fuck diet. Cut the junk, drop the alcohol for a stretch, stay out of the fridge at night, stop snacking on Karen's biscuits in the office, and progress happens. But it's around that 20% mark that most diets stop working because they're built on restriction and food lists and do not eat this and do not eat that, not actual data. Nothing's being quantified. So the only move left is to keep cutting even more and hoping that it's going to work at some point until the dam finally breaks and the tsunami of cravings hit. So a key part to the shift dropping below 20% body fat is moving away from a diet that is constrained and letting your lifestyle and schedule actually become the constraints instead, so that your budget is built around that. And then when you train, when you wake up, your working hours, your family, your dinners, date nights, social drinks, you don't have to change all that just to fit some strict food list, right? This way, you're not doing mental Brazilian jiu-jitsu in your head with yourself every day, figuring out, oh, what am I allowed to eat? Oh, I can't have that. Doing everyone's head in. Whether you're starting from 30% or the mid-20s, beginning with a realistic budget matters far more than another list of foods to avoid. And you might start at 2,400 calories and realize, you know what, this is too high. I'm not losing weight at a consistent rate. Drop it to 2,300 or maybe even 2,200. And you just adjust based off what the scale is saying and what the mirror is showing you, not your thoughts and your feelings. You can keep it that simple, or you can go even deeper if you want, but fat loss doesn't have to be complicated for it to actually work. Because at the end of the day, you're controlling your energy balance instead of hoping that some magical food list is just gonna like get you results. And once that shift happens, then you stop crossing your fingers and you start making decisions off of evidence and data the same way that you would run anything else in your life that actually matters to you. If you're around 20% body fat right now and you're kind of stuck oscillating in this range, you're doing 4 or 5 workouts a week and you still can't break through, that is the exact point that most guys reach out to work with me directly. So my coaching program link is in the description below if you want to learn more. But even once you are in a legit deficit and you're tracking properly, there's still one thing that most guys get wrong from the beginning, and it gets harder to fix the leaner you get. So let me show you how to solve that. Some people still think they need to lose all the fat fast, then worry about building muscle afterwards. So they treat it like 2 separate jobs. Muscle later, but cardio now, and then more cardio, and then even more cardio and more dieting. And that's just not what really worked for me. I was building muscle all the way down to about 10% or just below, adding weight to the bar, getting more reps the whole way, and feeling good about it. It only started to stall out around that 8% body fat and then further from there because my energy intake was so low. At that point, it started affecting how hard I could train and my ability to recover and manage stress and life and all these things. And you just can't perform at the same level. So you're not going to be building new muscle, and you might even lose a little bit if you regress in your training. But if you're nowhere near 8%, then that is not even a problem that you need to think about or even worry about. Above 10%, building muscle while cutting the fat is actually, it's going to be the easiest from wherever you're beginning because you've still got an abundance of energy as stored fat in the body that's going to fuel this for you. So if you train properly, then it's almost as if your muscles are just going to soak it up. So your training is just as much part of this as is your diet. And most guys get that part wrong too. Training 5 or even 6 days a week, apparently some guys do, doesn't automatically mean that you're building muscle and you're getting lean at the same time. Just go to any gym, look around if you've been there for long enough, 6 months to a year, and you're going to notice something, that most people are lifting the same weights in the same way and nothing has changed, right? And they can do what they want, but if you have a look, you'll notice this. Chasing more sessions is no better if you can't actually recover from them and you're not making any progress. And if all you're doing is more cardio through a rapid fat loss phase, you're actively going to be losing more muscle than if you were lifting weights, or at least not adding any more of it. But 3 sessions a week with proper recovery in between, that's going to repair and grow the muscle mass that you don't currently have. That is important to get on the way down. So every session should be beating the last one, whether it's with reps, weight, sets, and just focus on that to keep it simple. And that is going to stop you from going backwards because 15% body fat on a guy with very low muscle looks noticeably different to a guy who's 15% who's actually built some on the way down. And that's really the physique that most guys want. That difference is often overlooked, especially for guys who are trying to rush it just a little bit, like trying to get to some imaginary deadline, which just makes things even worse. And that is exactly what I want to cover next so that you can avoid that trap. So the correct way to do this is in phases, not one long eternal grind from wherever you're starting, straight to 15 and below without a break. So you want to think about it from 30 or above 30, say 25, 25 to 20, and then 20 to 15. And then from that point, you can decide whether you want to push to 10 or settle in that 11 to 13 range. Then you can reverse diet out of there and not blow it all up again. And you treat each phase kind of like this quarterly review. You want to check in, adjust, and only move to the next phase once the current one is locked in and you're not struggling to maintain it. And the fact is, life will force your hand, whether you like it or not, with unforeseen circumstances, and then you will have to take a maintenance week without planning it. And during my longest cut, there were stretches of even a few weeks at a time where it felt like nothing was happening. Then within like 3 to 5 days, there would be this quick progress on the scale and in the mirror. So if you're like most of the men I work with, then you're not a full-time athlete. And this could be the third or fourth, maybe even the fifth priority in the hierarchy of your life, which means you're gonna cop delays. Kids getting sick, you catching it, going on holidays, a brutal week or month at work, something spontaneous coming up, your investment property, just water system just blew up and now you got to go fix it. Life happens. And with that in mind, whatever time frame that you're imagining that you're going to get to next, just give yourself the grace of doubling it. If it took you 10 weeks to get through phase 1, don't expect phase 2 to take exactly 10 weeks because you can't predict the future. And a tight deadline just adds unnecessary pressure, which you don't need, and increases the risk of you rebounding later. The body prefers to ease into this, and the harder you force it, the harder it's going to push back. And that's when the cravings hit and the energy crashes, and then one little slip up turns into, I've ruined it all, screw it, may as well binge a whole buffet, and it all unravels. So a quarter to half a kilo per week, or say half a pound to a pound a week, that is the pace that holds for clients who travel once or twice a month, who have kids and social events and everything else. Faster is going to happen sometimes, but it doesn't need to be forced. Just let the boring consistency do the work over time. Bear in mind that 15% or below isn't actually a big deal once you've maintained it like year round. Like plenty of guys carry abs all year and it just becomes normal. Like say if you want to climb Mount Everest, the photo at the top isn't going to make you a better person. It's the journey to the top and training for it that actually changes you. So getting to 15% body fat, the number itself won't change you. The journey getting there will. And I can guarantee you this, if you think there's some other special diet out there that's going to magically solve everything in your life and it's all just going to line up perfectly, you're going to keep gaining or staying stuck or lose it temporarily and then gain it back. And each time, a little bit older, a bit less muscle, your metabolism is a little bit more beaten down and it's going to get harder for you the next time and the time after that. But if you're already been through a version of this cycle and you're done with repeating it, that is exactly the phase that most of my clients are working through and that I get them through. Done properly in my one-on-one metabolic recon method. The link is below the video in the description to learn more about that. Then go watch this video to see the brutally honest truth on the timeline to lose belly fat.